Finally, the old fart has passed away. I've grown tired of waiting. Oh. You're no longer needed either. Just leave the condolence money and go quickly.
During the funeral of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, who had burdened me with the sole responsibility of caring for him, uttered these words. My husband, who had been too busy with work to involve himself much in caregiving issues, remained silent. If my father-in-law were alive, he would have been on my side, but now I have no allies. I've decided to sever ties with this family. As I contemplate this, my husband slowly stands up. I am a 29-year-old housewife living with my parents-in-law. My husband and I got married 2 years ago, and we began living with my parents-in-law last year. This was because shortly after our marriage, my father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer.
Actually, it seems quite advanced. Dad seems to have noticed changes in his body for quite some time, but he kept quiet because he didn't want to be a bother.
Huh? Is that true?
Yeah, according to the doctor, it's already in the late stages. Even if he starts treatment now, it's too late, and he probably won't live much longer.
When I heard this news, it hit me like a shock, as if it were about myself. My father-in-law had dedicated himself to his work, held a respectable position within the company, and cared deeply for my husband and mother-in-law. Knowing all this about him, I was too shocked to find any words. But we didn't have time to indulge in such emotions. The issue of caring for my retired father-in-law arose. He retired from his job because it became difficult to work anymore.
About the caregiving, to be honest, I want to be the one to do it. But since Dad doesn't have a job anymore, I can't just quit my job here.
That makes sense.
Of course, I'll ask Mom for help too, but I want to live at home from now on. Mom also wants us to spend our last moments together as a family. That includes you too.
My husband had wanted to take care of his father himself, considering all the care his father had given him over the years. However, if my husband quit his job, we would lose our source of income. Yet, we couldn't leave the caregiving solely to my elderly mother-in-law. So, we ended up living with my in-laws. Since getting married, I've been treated well by my father-in-law, whom I deeply respect as a person. So, I've always wanted to help him in any way I can. Besides, my mother-in-law considers me part of the family and expressed her wish for us to spend my father-in-law's final moments together.
Honestly, I feel really sorry for causing trouble at the very end. I'll do what I can on my own. So please don't burden yourself too much.
Please rely on me for anything I can help with. That's why I moved here.
Ah, thank you.
My father-in-law expressed gratitude. From that day on, our caregiving life in my in-laws' home began. During the first month, we managed our caregiving duties smoothly. I actively participated, but gradually, changes started to occur in our routine. Take care. Have a good day at work.
Thanks. I'll try to come back early. Take care of Dad, okay?
Before marriage, I used to make my own lunch, so it wasn't that hard. However, preparing separate breakfasts for my frail father-in-law and mother-in-law, and cleaning the considerably larger house compared to the apartment I lived alone in, proved to be much more challenging than I anticipated. The most difficult part was dealing with my mother-in-law.
The breakfast today wasn't that tasty. Did you take shortcuts?
No way. No, I didn't.
You did, didn't you? Are you making the same menu as that old fart?
Old fart?
My darn husband. Seems like you're making easy-to-eat meals for him because he's weak. But they're bland. I told you to make my breakfast separately. Didn't I?
Of course, I've been making separate meals. I apologize if it didn't suit your taste.
I'm letting you live here without paying rent. So I expect you to work a bit harder. As my daughter-in-law, you need to pull your weight.
Ah, yes. At first, my mother-in-law was supportive and really kind. However, as I got used to this lifestyle, she gradually stopped helping with household chores and caregiving, and started criticizing what I did. I never thought she would resort to such behavior, so I was surprised by this change, but the frequency of her behavior resembling bullying was increasing.
Well then, I'm going out. Take care of things today. Okay?
Wait, where are you going?
Where? Just to a tea party.
Well, today we have a meeting with the care manager, remember? I asked you to accompany my father-in-law to his appointment, didn't I?
Oh, I forgot. Well, I have plans too. So can't you go instead?
Even if you say that, I can't, that's why I asked you.
Caring for him is your job, isn't it? Don't push it on me. Just fulfill your responsibilities properly.
With that, my mother-in-law said nothing more and left, ignoring me. That day, there was a meeting with the care manager regarding my father-in-law's caregiving, so I couldn't accompany him to his appointment. I had informed her about it a week ago. Her selfishness and indifferent attitude towards my father-in-law's needs made me feel a bit angry.
Sorry for burdening you so much.
No, it's okay. I'm not bothered by it.
I called the hospital earlier and rescheduled the appointment for tomorrow. Sorry about that.
I felt sorry for making my father-in-law worry, realizing that all of this was due to my mother-in-law's selfish actions. I had gradually begun to feel dissatisfaction towards my mother-in-law, who left all the household chores and caregiving to me while she spent my father-in-law's savings on leisure activities. Sorry, can I talk to you about something?
Sure, what's going on?
It's about your mom. At first, we were working together. But lately, I've been handling everything on my own, both the housework and caregiving, and it's getting physically tough for me.
But with Dad's condition, we can use long-term care insurance, can't we? Or can we get helpers to assist?
That's true, but your mom doesn't want strangers seeing your dad in such a vulnerable state. Both your dad and I agree to getting helpers, though.
I see.
Could you try talking to her, even briefly? I know you're busy with work. I'm sorry to ask.
Got it. I'll talk to her.
After that, my husband talked to my mother-in-law, but there was no improvement in her behavior. The bullying towards me only escalated, and while the care manager tried to plan in a way that minimized my burden, the stress from both caregiving and the constant bullying took a toll on me mentally and physically. One day, as usual, I prepared my husband's lunch and saw him off, anticipating another dreary day ahead as I started on the household chores. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded from my smartphone. In that instant, I rushed straight to my father-in-law's room. Please hold on. I'm calling an ambulance right away. The monitoring camera in my father-in-law's room alerted my phone, but he had collapsed and lost consciousness. He was swiftly transported to the hospital, but a few hours later, he passed away. It was a heart-wrenching experience. Why did this happen so suddenly? I had cared for him as if he were my own father, and in the almost year-long span, our relationship had grown as deep as that of a real family. I broke down on the spot, tears streaming down my face. Memories of conversations with my father-in-law and the moments we shared flooded my mind, intensifying my sorrow even further. However, I had no time for crying. I had to deal with funeral arrangements, contacting relatives, and managing other tasks, keeping myself occupied amidst the busy days. Then, on the day of the funeral.
Can you come here? I need to talk to you.
Sure.
Now that old fart is gone, So you're of no use anymore. Can't you just leave after giving your condolence money?
What?
I only wanted you as a caregiver. You're no longer needed.
The moment I heard these words from my mother-in-law, my patience snapped. What the hell do you mean I'm not needed anymore?
Don't make me repeat. You were just a caregiver. Wasn't this discussed when we talked about moving to my parents' house?
I heard you saying you wanted to spend the last moments with your family, including me.
That's ridiculous. I thought of giving you a chance since I heard you were a hard-working woman. But now you're of no use.
Yeah, she's no longer needed. Let's get rid of her.
That's too harsh. I never expected my husband to betray me at this critical moment. But if both of them thought of me this way, I'd gladly disappear from their sight. Since my father-in-law is gone, now seemed like the right time to sever ties with this family. Understood. Then, from now on.
Hold on a second. What are you saying? It's my mother who should disappear.
What?
Excuse me?
The moment I heard my husband's words, both my mother-in-law and I were taken aback. I had assumed my husband wasn't on my side, and even his reaction just now seemed like he was siding with my mother-in-law. Wait a minute, what do you mean?
Disappear? Me? What are you talking about?
I mean, now that Dad's no longer with us, you're no longer needed as well. Towards the end, even Dad realized your true colors and didn't think you were necessary.
What does that mean? My mother-in-law seemed taken aback by his words, and then she fell silent, leaving me with nothing but questions swirling in my mind. My husband, who had been too busy with work to intervene much in matters of caregiving and the relationship between me and my mother-in-law, seemed to know more than me.
So, what do you think you are to me, huh? Do you think she's a maid or a caregiver or something like that?
Well, it's not like that. But
what? If it's not that, then you can't explain your words earlier, can you?
Well, you see, I knew that she was after his inheritance. That's why, even though I thought she had some ulterior motives while caring for him so diligently, I decided to keep using her until the end.
You're avoiding eye contact, but you better tell the truth. Look, I know everything. You were talking bad about Dad right in front of him, weren't you?
Huh?
Did you think Dad, who needed caregiving, wasn't mentally aware? You were casually chatting on the phone with your tea party friends right in front of him, talking about my wife and all. Dad apparently heard everything. It was just a week ago when he talked to me about it. I thought I had to handle it.
I shivered as I heard my husband's confession. I remembered that my mother-in-law and father-in-law shared a room, but I never imagined she'd talk bad about me in front of him. Dad spent most of his days in the bedroom, and my mother-in-law usually only confronted me when we were just two. So, I wondered if Dad didn't truly understood her nature. Occasionally, she'd cancel accompanying him to appointments, or her true colors would show in front of him, but those were rare occurrences.
Seriously, Dad only had cancer. He didn't have dementia or anything. He knew all about how you were treated, all your bullying. Yet what? While you gallivanted around while your husband was terminally ill, how could you even say such a thing?
Well, it's, a misunderstanding.
Well, whether that was a misunderstanding or not, the fact remains you've been cornering my wife with your bullying. Dad even told me about it. He was planning to divorce you soon. Look at this. He had divorce papers ready.
What's that about?
And about my wife being after the inheritance? Don't make me laugh. You're the one who saw Dad as a cash cow, right? I was shocked when I saw the balance of his savings. How much did you spend?
Well, she did call him old fart, and went out quite often, but
That's not true. Let me explain.
Well, I think you just used up Dad's savings for your own pleasure. For an old hag like you to spend so much money, what on earth were you spending it on? Well, Dad was planning to divorce you, and he made it clear that there wouldn't be any inheritance for you after he passed away. So, you're no longer needed. You don't even have to come to the funeral.
Huh? Wait a minute. What do you mean there's no inheritance?
What? After all this talk, you're still hung up on that? You really were just after the money.
but seriously, did your dad really say he wouldn't leave her anything?
Well, I have his will, so it's all good. He made quite a few preparations while he was alive, so everything's taken care of.
Preparations? Don't just assume things. Please explain properly what you mean.
Well, I guess explaining it in my own words might not do justice. Shall we read Dad's letter?
With that, the husband took out a white envelope from his breast pocket and slowly began to read his father's letter.
Firstly, I want to express my gratitude to my proud son. Thank you for supporting me despite your busy schedule. And to my daughter-in-law, although we don't have a direct relationship, I am truly grateful for your devoted care. In contrast, to my wife who squandered my assets without care and neglected household chores and caregiving, I won't leave any inheritance. I hope to proceed with the process of disinheriting her after my death.
Huh? Is this true?
As the husband read aloud a portion of the will, the mother-in-law froze for a few seconds and collapsed to her knees. Trembling, she clasped her head with both hands and began to groan.
What's this? That's a lie. Disinheritance? There's no way that'll hold up. Do you know how I've endured over these decades?
I don't know how you've endured, but you were happy when Dad was diagnosed with cancer, weren't you? Besides, Dad doesn't wish to leave you any inheritance, and his intentions are clearly stated in the will. I will follow the will accordingly, and you better not expect any share.
Stop kidding me. This is unbelievable.
Believe it or not, it's true. We have evidence of your mistreatment captured by our home surveillance cameras, and you've spent more than half of our savings since Dad quit his job due to terminal cancer. There's enough evidence to convince the court.
But
At this point, it seemed certain that my husband could successfully exclude his mother from inheritance rights. Perhaps if she had begged on her knees, the outcome might have been different. However, the mother-in-law only tried to make excuses and showed no signs of apology.
Enough already. You've only seen my father as money. He worked diligently for the family, dedicating most of his life to us. However, you chose to betray him in the end.
Yes, I heard about you from my father-in-law. He was saddened by the change in you over the years. But to think everything was uncovered. It wasn't so much sadness as it was disappointment, I suppose.
that's not it. It was because I've never been allowed to use any money until now. It's just the backlash.
Stop lying. Don't play the victim here. If you dare speak ill of Dad any further, I won't forgive you. I don't want to see your face anymore, and you're not the person who should be here for Dad's final farewell. I won't allow you to be at the funeral any longer. Leave right away.
After my husband said those words loudly, my mother-in-law trembled visibly, looking surprised, and hastily left the funeral hall. Afterward, I bid farewell to my father-in-law with my husband and the other attendees and returned to our family home. We gathered all the evidence remaining in the camera and initiated legal proceedings at the family court. Soon after, my mother-in-law was excluded from inheritance, and her inheritance rights were invalidated. However, a few days later, my mother-in-law showed up at our family home.
Hey, isn't this going too far? Are you really going to abandon the mother who raised you all this time?
I no longer consider you my mother, and I'll continue to see you as a total stranger from now on.
Since you've been abandoned by both your husband and your own son, maybe it's time for you to face reality, isn't it? We don't need your condolence money, so please leave soon.
Such impudence from a cheeky little girl.
The mother-in-law was completely furious, her face turning red with anger as if she could explode any moment.
Dad decided to leave all his assets to such a cheeky little girl, leaving you with nothing. Isn't it about time you accepted that reality? Well, Dad did some terrible things too. He should have divorced you right away instead of dragging it out like this. That's how we ended up with an incompetent who's been comfortably lounging around for a long time under the care of a husband with a decent salary.
In spite of that, you come here boasting about being stronger than anyone else. Does such a person even have a job?
Well, we're planning to sell this house and move anyway. We're starting a new life, so you might as well enjoy what little life you have left.
With that, my husband slammed the door shut. Afterward, despite her banging on the door and making a scene, my husband and I decided to completely ignore her. We ignored all her attempts to contact us, and as we continued to ignore her whenever she came to our family home, gradually, she stopped coming altogether. Then, we sold the family home and used the money as a down payment to purchase a new house. Since the new house is quite far from where we used to live, there's little worry about my mother-in-law showing up uninvited. Well, I can't entirely dismiss the possibility of her hiring a detective to track us down, but she barely has enough money as it is, let alone to afford a detective. After that incident, I heard my mother-in-law tried to find a job to support herself, but of course, there was nowhere willing to hire her. With no prior work experience and having coasted through life as an unproductive elderly woman, there was no place for her to find employment. Besides, it was written in the will like this.
Since she's always been bossing people around, she should experience the same hardships.
Whether my father-in-law foresaw this outcome or not, my mother-in-law seems to be barely scraping by as a burden to society, not even having opportunities to be exploited by others. Earning daily wages doing odd jobs just to afford food for the day and gather enough strength to survive tomorrow. I don't know if she finds any joy in this way of living, but one thing is for certain. It's that she'll spend the remainder of her short life filled with regret. Betraying others and making decisions based on benefits and drawbacks always leads to such outcomes. Human relationships are not that simple, and what goes around comes around. I'll take my mother-in-law as a lesson and make sure not to lead such a miserable life in my old age.